Hi guys, and welcome to Hooked for Life with Mary Beth Temple. In this video we're going to take a quick look at the triple drop stitch that I used in knitting this adorable scarf. This is made in Macaroni Yarns glitter ribbon, and this is some of the yarn that I will be bringing to Hochanda TV. And for more information you can always check out my website, hookedforlifepublishing.com. Click on blog. This is a long, skinny, very fancy scarf. The ribbon is a flat ribbon and it has a gold lurex thread in it, and of course we have it in a couple of other colors, but that's not what this video is for. This video is for the triple drop stitch. So this is a 2-row stitch. It's 2 rows in which it's different than normal knitting. So I'm going to do the triple wrap. So I've inserted my right hand tip from front to back like I normally would to knit. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to pull all 3 through. So that's the first part of the row. 1, 2, 3. Well, that's the first part of the stitch. It's its own row. 1, 2, 3. And you see I got to help it along a little bit because it's really, it's relatively tight. 1, 2, 3. And this particular scarf is only 7 stitches wide, so we're going to go ahead and do the whole row. Now, when I first started doing this stitch in this yarn, I started out worrying about keeping that yarn perfectly flat when I did the wrap, but here's the deal, it doesn't matter, because when you pull it through and you do the second row to drop those stitches, it's going to twist anyway. So there is absolutely no use in making yourself bananas and trying to keep that ribbon flat. So there's the first row of my triple wraps. Now if I was counting all these, I would see 21 loops because I had 7 stitches. I had 3 wraps for each stitch. So that would give me 21 loops across, except I don't actually care. But if you want to double check, that would be the place to do it. Now on the second part of the stitch, which is again its own row, I'm going to knit through one of the loops and let the other 2 drop. Now, does it matter which one? No. Does it matter where? No. You don't want to make it so tight that it does matter, but what you're going to do is just wrap one time and pull it through. And I just went in the first one because that was the easiest one to see, and I'm going to let the other 2 drop off. Boom. Now, for this first stitch, you can see I'm manually pulling it up a little bit. That's because that first stitch has a tendency to get tight because you're bringing the working yarn from the bottom of that really deep row to the top of that really deep row. So for that first stitch, pay a little bit of extra attention and make sure that you haven't pulled it too tight. But now my next stitch, grabbing the first loop, my yarn's already where it belongs so I don't get crazy. Knit 1, let the loops drop. Knit 1, knit the first loop, whatever the first loop is that you see, drop the rest. Knit 1, drop the rest of the loops. Knit 1, drop the rest of the loops. To the very end. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a little tug. And you see how it's all even. They're all about the same height. But that extra one has a couple of extra twists in it. And again, that's getting the yarn from here to here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is knit 4 rows. And then I'm going to do the drop stitching all over again. And that's all there is to this pattern. Now if you have purchased the yarn on Hochanda.com, you got a written version of this pattern in there. But honestly, it's 7 stitches. 4 rows of just plain knit, and then the 2-row drop stitch pattern, the first row in which you're doing all the wraps, and the second row in which you're dropping all the wraps. So could I make this wider? Absolutely. Could I make it narrower? Absolutely. Because this particular scarf is a cotton and glitter yarn, it is not meant for warmth, it's meant for decoration, so I went long and skinny. I will also say, with cotton tapes like this is a pretty wide tape. You want the gauge to be relatively loose. It really can be stiff and unattractive if you go too small with the knitting needles. I'm just getting up to where we belong. I'm going to do that drop stitch one more time. I'm sure most of you have gotten it, but if you haven't, we'll show it one more time. One of the advantages of short rows. While we're talking about this yarn, the other thing I've noticed, when you're knitting from a ball like this and it's the flat tape, instead of standing it up and letting the yarn uncurl, that makes it twist, which is a pain in the rear end. I like to let it unwind. It keeps a little of the twist out of the yarn when you're stitching. When I'm not making a video, I have it in a little bowl, like a little Tupperware plastic bowl. Okay, so I give that a good tug and then you can see it all evening out at the bottom. So let's do that wrap stitch one more time. On the first row, wrap 1, 2, 3, bring all 3 through. I'm going to do that all the way across. 1, 2, 3. Now, could you do 2 or 1 or 4 or 5? Absolutely. The more wraps you have, the taller the stitch will be. You can even alternate different size wraps in different places to make sort of a wave pattern. But again, I like 3. It's long enough to be decorative. It's not so long that you're going to catch on every doorknob that you pass. Also, this is a great stitch to use if you're a little low on yarn. If you have one skein of fancy yarn and you want to make a scarf or something like this, the drop stitch gives you a lot of square inches for the yardage or meterage. So once again, I'm on the second row of the pattern stitch, going to knit in that first loop like I normally would, pull that off, let the other 2 drop, and for that very first one, I'm going to give it a little tug to make sure that I get my height. From here on out, grabbing the loop. You see I just dropped one by accident. Doesn't matter. As long as my needle tip is under one of those loops, I'm not going to lose it. And that's all there is to it. Then I'm going to knit my 4 rows and do it all again. So that is the triple wrapped drop stitch. I hope to see you at my website, hookforlifepublishing.com. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel for more fabulous craft videos in knitting and crocheting and sewing and general crafts. And I have some weaving stuff coming, all kinds of good things. And I look forward to seeing you also on Hochanda Television on Sky TV in the UK and Europe. Thanks, guys. Bye.